Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a singer and entertainer by the name of Gay Elvis or Elberace. I think I've said that correctly.
You
Hello and
have.
welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Nice
I'm
to
good,
be here.
man. I'm good.
Good, 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 good.
I'm excited about this. Before we
Yeah.
begin, I'm gonna give a shout out to the person who put you forward as a guest because I get with the podcast, you get guests from different places. So like people reach out or people suggest
Mhm.
people, or sometimes, you know, it's a variation of like places that you get people
Yeah.
reaching out. But it was the lovely Charlotte, who is a fan of yours,
Hi,
who reached out
Charlotte.
to me.
Thank
So there you
you.
go.
I've got one. I've got one. I love you, Charlotte.
Oh, I'm sure you got many, many, many more fans, man. Yeah, no, do you know what? I mean, I was fascinated by this. I mean, so Elvis, the entertainer, the character, the performer, as we know, like the business of impersonating Elvis in of itself, like is a whole industry,
Yeah.
right? So when I saw like your interpretation, I was like, "This is amazing. I'd love
Oh,
to find out like how this came to be." Like, let's
mm.
start there. Obviously,
Okay.
when was the first time you ever heard Elvis?
Well, just before we go any further, Christian, can I just say something? I always have to clear this up at the beginning of any interview or podcast. First of all, I'm not an Elvis impersonator.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so what I've done is I've taken the uh, the Elvis and I've created an LGBTQ AI plus spin on it,
Hmm.
which I'll come to later for the reasons of why I've done that. But so I'm not the act is called Elberace, which is a mashup of
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Elvis
yeah.
and Liberace, but I don't impersonate either of them. It's a
That's
comedy
clever.
character. He's a comedy character that lives in the high security wing of the Louisiana State Penitentiary. And
I love that.
he loves Elvis. He's delusional and he loves Elvis. So when you come to see my show, I mean I do different types of shows. If I'm on at a festival, it's different. But when you actually come to see the show, El Barachi, a hunk of mincing love, then what you get is there's a nurse on stage as well that warms up and sets it that this is like some kind of mental health experiment, and
Okay.
she orchestrates the audience through the act. So they all bring knickers along and throw knickers. What my act does, I mean, going straight in here, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
please.
answering your question. But I, so I'm a trained. Let me go back to your question. I'm a trained actor. Okay, I trained to be an actor, and I mean, I'm quite a camp gay man, just
Really?
naturally. Yeah, just in case you hadn't guessed that. And
Love that.
all through my life, I've experienced marginalisation,
Right.
and certainly within the acting profession, there's a million actors around now. So when you go for an audition, you turn up, they want you to be exactly that person. So all I was getting castings for was things like where I'd have to go, oh, and this, that, and the other. And it wasn't really that much of interest to me to do
Right.
that. Like I'm a trained actor. I mean, my last year at drama school, I played a northern misogynistic minor in a play and got a first for it. I can act. And that's just not interesting to me. And also, not really what I want to be putting out into the world as an LGBTQ identifying person. So in 2004, I started to write and create my own show. It started off as a show called Out of the Closet into the Frying Pan. And it was all stories about myself. And I'd had a pianist, and the stories would go into songs that would continue the narrative of the story I told, but tell it in a different way. So I'm really a comedian and raconteur. So in 2018, I had my started my midlife crisis at 42. I went at it with great aplomb, let me tell you that much. I ended up in therapy
Oh,
until I
wow.
was 53. working out all this shit in my life. You know, when you get to that stage and you've got all these regrets. And again, because I've had quite a marginalized life, I'm neurodiverse, and so I don't think in the box. I'm completely, I mean, I get to 52 and decide it's a really good career move to be a gay Elvis. I mean, get real. Who am I? And so in 2018, I had a partner and he lived in North Yorkshire, and we were talking about moving together, and I sold my flat and then we broke up. So I ended up sort of sofa surfing, and my my one man show had done, it was, I mean, I wasn't, you know, but in terms of performance, promoting myself, I performed at some really good places. One of them, Pizza on the Park, which is the mecca of for cabaret performance in London. My show, James Haslam's Clutching Pearls, in 2011 was nominated for a What's on Stage award. I mean, that's huge. That's, I was up against Billy Elliot and Wicked and stuff like that, my little cabaret act. And so I've got this gig booked, sold out in London. And am I allowed to use language in this or not? Do I have to keep my language clean, or do
You
I
can
have
swear
to?
if you want. Yeah,
I
sure,
don't
I
like to
swear.
swear too. I don't like to swear too much, but for emphasis, we we're coming up to this gig, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck am I gonna do? I mean, because my brain was all over the place. And about 3 days before, I thought, I know, I'll be a gay Elvis. And I bought a really cheap jumpsuit and a nylon wig. And I'm not an Elvis fan at all.
Oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
really not an Elvis fan. People think when you do an act like mine that you're a fan of it. I've researched him and I can appreciate him now and the stuff that I like. But I'm not living out an Elvis fantasy. And so
Ah.
I went on stage, and the show was booked as me. And I walk on stage dressed as Elvis, and the audience just go, "What the fuck?" And I start going into comedy routine, telling stories dressed as Elvis, and then going into these Elvis songs. And by the end of the act, I blagged it. I mean, I'd no script, I just blagged it. By the end of the act, I noticed that the audience were getting up and really having a good time. And when I came off, I thought, I've got something here, because
Cha-ching.
if I can get this audience,
Yep.
my next audience, where this audience was at the end, if I can get them like that at the beginning, then I've got a really good act. So I very stupidly went on Facebook and created a gay Elvis page. That's what it was at the time. And I got some homophobic abuse from Elvis Presley fans. Because of course I
Uh,
hashtagged Elvis Presley. And someone said to me, "You look more like fucking Liberace." And I thought, hey, let's mash it up. And that's how I came up with the idea of it. And so within 6 months, I'd only done a handful of gigs. I got contacted by one of the biggest Elvis festivals in the world, and certainly the biggest one in Europe. And they asked me if it was the year of the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, 2019. They
wow.
wanted to get some diversity into the festival because Elvis is straight man. I mean, and they wanted to get some diversity into it. So they gave me an award. So I became the world's first awarded out LGBTQ Elvis themed act. I mean, if you told me that when I went to drama school, I'd have gone, nah. You know, and here I am suddenly, like, I'm on BBC Radio. I got mentioned on ITV News, you know, because it's what you have to remember with Elvis is what, like, younger people now don't get it. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 57.
Mhm.
And I remember Elvis, and Elvis is crystallized in a time of macho-ness.
Right.
And and so what I'm doing is very subtly pushing at gender by transforming the king of rock and roll into the queen of rock and roll, but doing it in a very respectful way because I'm not impersonating him. I do it as a separate character. I'm really true and honest to the songs, because I learned very early on when I started doing it what a huge umbrella it's a global brand.
Hmm.
And I've just been received official endorsement from Elvis Presley Enterprises, which is huge. The millions of Elvis acts in the world, and they've noticed mine because I've cornered a market that they can't because of the hetero cisness of Elvis. And so what I've successfully managed to do is transform it into something else that has a slightly more contemporary feel to a modern audience. But there's a backlash to that when you do it, because Elvis is straight man's drag, and in I mince, do you know what I mean? Doing this other version of it. And it was great getting the award. I mean, I got a load of homophobic abuse online. I mean, somebody said to me, oh, one of the messages was, what these literal boring things like, oh, what are children going to think when they go along to see it? And you're thinking, I'm gay Elvis, not paedophile Elvis. You know what I mean? I'm like, and there was a whole load. And when I got to the theatre, the producer said, there's a lot of talk about you being here. And I was backstage and I thought, I've got to go out in front of this Orthodox Elvis audience and perform. But the one thing I know I can do is perform. And I know how to connect with audience. And I thought, that's what you're going to have to do. And I blew the roof off this theatre. I blew the roof off when I got the award. So it's something I'm really proud of. And it's very easy nowadays for people just to remember the awful end of Elvis's career. And that's not helped. It's not helped by a lot of Elvis tribute artists. There are good ones out there, but if you say to someone Elvis, they immediately think of a fat old man like me, dressing up as Elvis and going on stage doing his act. But actually, he was a phenomenal artist and deserves, I mean, he died in 1977, and every year, millions of people descend on Graceland on the 16th of August, and there's a candlelit vigil for him. I mean, that's incredible. He's like the pop messiah of the 20th century, and that does need respect.
I couldn't agree more. First of all, there's a lot to unpack there. So what I'll say is,
Sorry, I did say I talk a lot.
no, no, no. I mean, it's a podcast. Like, do you know what I mean? That's the whole point.
Mm-mm.
And I never get that when people say like, oh, you spoke too much. It's like, come
No,
on,
no,
man.
no, no, no. Yeah,
Congratulations, first and foremost. That's amazing.
thank you.
Also, like, I mean, I think it's interesting for me to learn that because you get like an idea of you when you look at what you're doing online, but like now it's much
Mm.
more clearer in my mind. I'm like, oh, I see. This is like this
Yeah,
has levels to it. You know what I mean? But all I will say, just looking at all of that, I think it's strange. I knew that there would be probably backlash, and we'll explore a little bit of that in a
mm,
second. But it also kind of surprises me in a way because he's one of the biggest performers of all time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the art of performance.
mm,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time, if you're going to do something in that sphere, you're going to sing Elvis songs, or or you impersonate him, or what, or anything else in between. Like the first thing you got to understand is this is about performance. This is how I get my audience. This is what
mm,
matters. So I'm surprised to hear some of that backlash. But then, and I remember I mentioned to someone that I was going to be interviewing you, and one of the things that she said straight away was, "Oh, I wonder what his take would be on like the backlash because, as you say, like there's people from older generations who would look at it and they are unfortunately homophobic and they do have these ugly opinions and." I feel like a lot of that is just people like stuck in their ways, not progressively minded. Do you know what I mean? Or just not great people. Yeah, sometimes it's as simple as that.
yeah.
But also, I guess maybe people don't like change. People don't like sometimes reinvention of a character or changing elements of something. Like I think this is fascinating because, as you say, it's an amalgamation of two characters. It's your own thing. You've created a new character and you have a story behind it, and it's I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just interesting to me. I guess.
Yeah. So, first of all, when I won the award, it took me in a slightly different direction. Because as I started doing the act, and if you look at more recent, I'm going back to my original idea at night, because when I won the award, it took me off into uh, Elvis doing this kind of thing. But my original idea was this more fluid, gender fluid character who who uh so when I was at drama school, what one of the things they taught me was never take yourself to the character, always bring the character to you. So what I'm doing is as if I was a huge Vegas superstar. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it more a little bit more edgy and a little bit more contemporary. If you look at my new images, it's changing. If you listen to, so I work with a guy called SRJ, and we got a single coming out. I think it's the 5th of July. We've done this version of Blue Suede Shoes. It's unrecognizable to Blue Suede Shoes, and in the middle of it, I do a rap. And what the rap, it's not a rap as such, but you know, like a talky bit. And what it actually does is it changes the meaning of the song when you hear it. I sort of say things like, from the street to the stage, I'm making waves, blue suede shoes, no time to behave, Elberace vibes breaking through the haze. In these shoes, I'm a mincing queen, unfazed. And then it comes in again, blue suede shoes ain't just for the king. So here's to the queers, the ones who dare. In our blue suede shoes, you know we don't scare. Elberace legacy forever true. In every step we're taking, paying homage that's due. And it's this dance track. And the song is completely different. And those lyrics change. Don't step on my shoes into something else. They changed the meaning of the song. The thing of the blue suede shoes becomes, don't step on me, don't step on who I am. And it's quite powerful. And I love messing around like that. I love playing with it a bit. I'll send you the track actually.
Love to hear it. Yeah.
I'm really pleased with it. We've done like a little sort of dance version of Viva Las Vegas. Viva Las, we did this sort of, do you know what I mean? And they do. I mean, I don't get millions of plays, but they get played globally because it's under the Elvis umbrella. So people go in and listen to it and think, oh God, what's that? But going back to the original thing, so I don't, I mean, I so I'm 57, you know, and I love all the gender stuff that's around now. I mean, that wasn't around. I came out when AIDS was hitting in
Wow.
1983. Yeah, so I came out before Thatcher's Clause 28. You know, I came out at a time when you went to a gay club, you had to knock on a door and have a code to get in. You know, at 16, 17, I was illegal until I was 21, and I used to go to gay places, and I've been stood in them, and tear gas bombs have been thrown through the window. So I've seen change, and I fully support the um the the gender politics that are around at the moment. I do. There's some bits of it I'm not so keen on, but I do. I love to see youngsters doing that. But my god person identifies as non-binary. And I would say that I do now I've looked at it. I don't, I would say actually I'm probably, now I look back, an old fogey non-binary person. But occasionally I get the pronouns wrong. You
Right.
know, and they've said to me before, you're being transphobic, and I've said, I'm old, you know, just, you
Yeah.
know, give me a chance, just gently tell me, James, you've just got my pronoun wrong, because my thing is to support. But you know, that's not an excuse, and I apply that to people that do it to me as well. And I think these, going back to what you're saying about older generations, there is no excuse for homophobia.
No.
Absolutely not. I don't think they realise a lot of the time that it's homophobic. I mean, a lot of these things online were like, I'm not being homophobic, but what do you think Elvis's family would think of this? Do you know what I mean? And this, that, and the other. I'm playing with a hero, and you know, I expect that, and I embrace um that challenge, because when I got that award, and there wasn't a ton of it, but I do occasionally get homophobic abuse online. I mean, if I'm on at a festival, there'll always be, and it's on, you know, social media, there'll always be someone that comments. But that's part of my mission, You know, that's part of going to get the award. Was it's not worth it if you're not creating any change. I mean, and I've learned as a performer over the years, you're nothing if you're mediocre. You have to piss some people off to get anywhere. And believe you me, it's the people that don't like you that talk about you the most. This thing that was on Facebook, this chat group, they had to take it down for 2 weeks. It was all anybody was talking about, and then someone started it up again, and then this whole arguing started, people for and against, and in the end they took it down. And I privately messaged them and said, why have you taken it down? They said, oh, we sort of thought you wouldn't like, you know, this, that, and the other. I said, then leave it up. I love people talking about it. It's not me. I'm a completely separate private person. This is about pushing something. Of course, it's going to piss some people off. They see it and then they come away and they think, okay, but you know, I expect that. I expect that. It doesn't. It's you know, isn't nothing changes without friction. Nothing changes without and I'm there doing what I do in a straight world, in a really hetero world, and I do get embraced by some people within it, but there's always going to be people. Look at Madonna recently doing her celebration tour. Now, I'm not a Madonna fan at all, contrary to being gay. I'm not a Madonna fan at all, but I was shocked by the ageism.
Yeah.
You know, she shouldn't be on stage. She shouldn't be doing that. She's worked hard at her career. She's worked hard at building a fan base. Why shouldn't she? Okay, she sold sex. That's what she did with her act. And she's entitled to get up there for anybody that wants to go and see it. Why be ageist? Why not celebrate diversity, age, and all those kind of things? And the reason why we have to have pride and fly flags and go on marches is to create that change. And, you know, I could get on a plane now, Christian, and within probably I could spend 150 quid. And within 3 or 4 hours, I could get off a plane where I'm illegal. I'm illegal. You know what I mean? We don't just have pride in this country just to, okay, we're lucky enough that we can go and wave a flag, but we're sending out a message to the world with it when we do it. Look at what's going on in Chechnya. Look at, those kind of things. So, and Russia. So it's all part of change and it's all part of moving on. I don't like being trolled. I don't like it. It hurt me at first, but now I think, ha 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 ha, ha, ha. Got ya. And you're going to talk about me now. Thank you. That's what we want. That actually inspires me.
I was gonna say, like, how have you learned to overcome it? But it sounds to me like you've just kind of made it part of. Well, I mean, from a business perspective, you've obviously recognized, like, hey, if they're talking about you, great, like, keep talking. But also, you've learned to kind of build a sort of a strength against it, which is very inspiring. I think
I don't like it. I
no,
don't like
of course not. Like, who's gonna like
nobody,
that? You know what I mean?
nobody likes it, but
Nah.
but when you're a performer, like I'm a trained performer, I did 4 years of hard. When you are a performer, no one understands what you do. It's an incredibly difficult job. I have to go to the gym. I have to, I spent £3,000 on knee injections so I can perform at festivals over the summer because I have arthritis.
Wow.
And you've seen my act, it's active, and vocal warm-ups, preparation, all the stuff that you go through. The bit on stage is the very small bit, that's the fun bit. The rest of it's hard graft, a lot of letdown. And when you're the performer, you're the bottom of the business ladder, let me tell you that much. And the higher up you go, you get treated more and more like shit, basically. And as a performer, what I've realized over the years is my duty is to an audience. My duty is to go on stage and create magic. My duty is to leave you with something. So when I did Eastbourne Pride 2 years ago, I'm back there this year, there was a little girl in the audience I don't like the term special needs, but that's the term that we give. But you could tell she was definitely neurodiverse. And I'm on stage as Elberace, and I'm going over and I'm sort of singing a bit to her. And her mum's doing this over her head, her heart. So I keep going over, and then just before the last song, I sort of come up to the stage and I said, see, I've got my number one fan here today. Why don't you come around and get your photo taken with me? This, that, and the other. I came off stage and there's a queue of people because the act is really colourful and people wanting their photo taken with Elberace. And this little girl, she came up and bless her, I thought she was going to explode. I mean, I've never seen so much excitement in one human being. And I stayed in character, like, hello, gorgeous, and I'm signing stuff for her, and we had photos taken. And when she walked away, I realised that's why you perform. That's why you perform. She thinks that that's a real character. She's gone away with that. She thinks that I go home and get in bed and that's who I am. It's a real person. And she's gone off with that. I can't stand it. Like, when I'm in costume, I'll go and have photos taken with people and I'll show off a bit. But when it comes off, I can't stand it when you see people in the bar afterwards still lapping up. That to me is selfish ego of a performer, because your duty is to give people something on a stage under lights that isn't real, and you leave them with that to take away. And it's not my job to ruin that for people when they go away from seeing the act. And then I put it all in a suitcase. And I mean, say Southampton Pride, when I perform there, it's 18,000 in the audience. And I come out with my suitcase and I walk past the audience I've just performed in front of an hour before, and they don't know who I am. But they've left with this memory of this larger than life character performing. That's the beauty of it. That's what I love. It's the creation and the giving to people. Because of my marginalization in my life, I'm creative, and my creativity doesn't come out in painting. It comes out in performance. And I spent my whole life listening to abuse I had in my formative years, and never always questioning, am I acceptable? Am I this? Am I that? And wanting to share my creativity with audience. I love audiences and I love that. And when I'm on stage, I go on stage unrehearsed, and I have to connect with everybody. In this case, 18,000 people. Sometimes it's just 50 people. And that's my job. That's my job, to do that. And I come off and then I leave you with it. I go home, my social media's going mad. I'm eating fish and chips at home and I'm thinking, great, I've achieved something there. And they believe it. I mean, that's a gift to do. It absolutely feeds my brain. It feeds my spirit, and it fulfills me to do that. It absolutely does.
Inspiring stuff, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, I'm full of shit.
No, no, not at all. It's amazing to hear. I mean, I'm happy to hear it's been so well received. One thing I want to ask you about as well is, like, in general, what has the act and your work meant to, like, the LGBTQ plus community? What would you say over the years?
That's a really interesting question. And that's something that I perform at Pride festivals. That's what I've done. I think it's safe to say that prejudice also exists in gay circles.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
even as a camp gay man, there's a lot of what you call femme shaming. It's the people, like, I mean, I'm when I was younger, I mean, I was really camp, and it's people like that are like that take the abuse on a daily basis. I mean, I can't tell you some of the homophobic abuse I've received in my life. Has been horrendous, and it's the people that can pass as straight acting that get the benefit of it, of that, the fact that you're the target. And I mean, when I was younger, there was a guy at school that bullied me terribly, and I walked into a gay club one night and he was in there, and he's gay.
course. Of
Do you
course he
understand what
is.
I mean?
Yeah, no, no, I do, and it's ridiculous. Like,
Different time as well, different time that we got to take that into account. But it does happen. And so with my act, what I found really difficult as far as the gay community goes is when people see my act, and I have to say, like I say, I'm reinventing, I'm sort of going back to my original idea. But, you know, Elvis isn't gay culture. It's not it's not really gay culture. And so unless you really look at it and think, oh yeah, okay. So I think a lot of gay people miss the gender pushing stuff. They miss the thing that I'm doing. So I found it really difficult to get into any gay places. I really, it's a closed door to me. It absolutely is a closed door to me. When I've done one or two, when I've done it, it's been hugely popular. But you also have to remember, and I don't say this in a derogatory way, but it is the truth. When you're so I don't really perform in pubs. I perform sort of. I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but I perform in small theatres and
Mhm.
clubs
I
rather
get it.
than pubs. And quite often, when you're applying to a pub, the person that that you're being booked by is by Sheila, who runs the bar. And Sheila sometimes doesn't get do you know what I mean? She's not entertainment. So she doesn't really get what it is that you're doing. The higher up I go, so I had, before we went into the lockdowns, because I'd won the award, I had really top management interested in my act. I'm talking really fantastic management. And he really got what it was that I was doing. When I go, so like Elvis Presley Enterprises, they get what it is that I'm doing. But the lower down you are, you're dealing with people to get in places that aren't entertainment. They don't have, they're kind of, they're booking a similar type of thing every night. They don't want to. So I'm well received. When I do the prides, I'm really well received. I mean, Southampton Pride, love me, absolutely love me. Gravesham Pride, I've done every year. They absolutely love my act. And they have, when I'm there, I mean, I've done several prides I do where, I mean, Gravesham, Medway, I've had it quite often where the producers or the organisers will come up to me when I'm backstage and say, I've got to tell you, we've had people turn up that have come especially to see your act, or that uh, have come to the gate and said, look, we don't have tickets. Can we just come in and see the Elvis act? Because I'm not big on social media. I don't do a lot of social media because I don't have to, because it's Elvis. I mean, I don't have to sell that. You either want a gay Elvis or you don't. I don't need thousands of followers on. I mean, every year I get contacted by Britain's Got Talent every year, and
That's interesting. I didn't realize that that program like reached out to people. That's
oh yeah,
interesting.
so a large percentage. Well, I mean, I have to be careful what I'm saying, just in case someone from God's Talent sees it. But they're making a TV program,
Right.
so
Okay.
so
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
they headhunt, they headhunt.
Ah,
Yeah, so I'm
learn something
headhunting.
new.
And I don't have a problem with programs like that at all. I mean, if you want to go on it, but you know, I I can't remember how I got on to telling you that. I can't remember what we were talking about.
Well, I
But
mean, you're getting attention for this act. Do you know, in
yeah,
different
yeah,
places and bigger
yeah,
places, and it
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. But it's where you put it and what you do with it. And it's like I say, I don't. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So I went through the thing with the producers last year. I thought, okay, we'll go one stage further this year, and I'm talking to them, and I decided not to do it. It's not for me to do. I'm a professional performer, and as far as I'm concerned, if you're not paying me for the audition, I'm not doing it. Simple as that. And because you're making a program, and believe you me, in the lockdowns, I was an inch from being made homeless. So
Wow.
yeah. So at least cover my expenses. They want a lot, but that's fine. That's for me to decide whether or not I want to do it or not. But a little while later, I did contact them and I said, there's a lot of LGBTQ stuff on TV, and um, how do I get in touch with those kind of people? And they didn't want to help me. And they basically said, well, go on Britain's Got Talent and you'll get millions of hits on YouTube. To me, that's nothing. To me, who wants a million hits on YouTube? I
Well,
mean,
I'll say this much, playing devil's advocate. I know you said like you're not fully interested with pushing it on social media because, as you say, the Elvis brand, everything attached to that is big enough that you don't
mm,
necessarily need it. But like, let's say you wanted to just increase awareness about this app, right?
mm,
That certainly is a way that you could do it. It's not the only way. There's tons of ways. I mean, like for example, we can see how popular TikTok is. You could just do a few clips a week and boom, probably create the same effect, if not bigger. Um, it's just one way. Those
yeah,
shows, like to be honest, if anything, they're becoming I don't know if archaic is the right word. Like television is dying. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Like it's
mm,
in general. Like it's
mm.
just it's all streaming now. It's all everything's changed. So a traditional television talent show, as it were, I don't know what its function anymore is, other than okay, yeah, you get yourself out there. So I
Mm.
suppose my question to you is like, do you see any value in maybe the reach perspective of going on a show like that? Not necessarily specifically that show, but just any kind of talent show or anything.
I do. I do. And I do think that there is something in it for certain people. But the problem for me is so Elberace is a superstar. He's a megastar in his own mind. And, I said to them when I was talking to them, I'm not going on dressed as Elvis going, hi, I'm James. I live in London. So they agreed to do like a VT of him arriving at the theatre and a big announcement, and then he'd come on. But it doesn't really fit for what I want to do. I do think social media is a good platform, but the problem for me is as well is in the lockdowns, and I'd only started my act in 2018.
Wow, so it's pretty new. Wow,
Yeah, I started it at the end of 2018.
amazing.
And so I'd only really been doing it just over a year when we went into the lockdowns. But I thought to myself, I don't want to pop my cork on the internet. You know what I mean? Ultimately, as a performer, I work to earn money. And once I've done it, you've seen it. You know what I mean? I want to get paid. Like I've paid my dues as a performer. Do you know what I mean? I've sacrificed so much in my life to follow my creativity. Um, I'm due a little bit of money. I'm due a little bit of see with Alberace. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, lovely friend of mine, Dee. She was signed to Warner Brothers Music in the 80s. Fantastic singer. I get to work with some really good people as well, I've got to say. Steve Honest, so Steve Honest was contacted me to see if I'd do a gig for him. And I then, in the lockdowns, went into the garage and did some recording. And when I got the award at Porthcawl, he messaged me and said, if you need a sound engineer, I'll come and do it for you. So I did this recording. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I thought, who was that guy? So I messaged him and said, I've recorded a song. Would you have a look at it for me? And he got back and said, I'll master it and mix it for you. And I said, well, look, I haven't got a pot to piss in at the moment. Anyway, he came back to me and he said, it's really good. Could you just do another vocal, but do it really, I want it really edgy. So I, in my naivety, go down to the garage, do it, and send it back to him within half an hour. And he messaged me back and he said, I work with world-class artists that can't do that. He said, and everything you've sent me is wonderful. Now, I'm not a singer and I don't profess to be a singer. I'm singing by default. Like I say, I'm a raconteur. Anyway, when he said world-class artists, I Googled him. He is multi-platinum. He did the sound engineering on the first Oasis album.
Wow.
And he's come and done this work, the sound desk for me when I've done a gig in London. And I'm really blessed by that sort of thing, by those sort of people that just, do you know what I mean? Because of Elvis, because they've got an interest in it. And he loves my act. But so, yeah, I just, with the whole social media thing, I do think there's a thing for it, but and also I'm older, you know what I mean? I don't fully understand it. But there is a kind of thing of, well, what do I put out and what do I make out of that? You know what I mean? It's kind of a little bit like, I can understand, say, if you're a songwriter, but you know, I mean, what do? I do an Elvis act. You know what I mean? Once you've seen it, you've seen it. I don't really want to.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I think for yourself you'd have to create like almost like a lore, you know what I mean? It'd have to be a series of videos and stuff exploring the story of this character, or kind of like a snippets of this character interacting
Yeah.
with people, places, etc. Like you could do it. I can imagine it, but you'd have to approach it a bit differently, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's about understanding social media. But the other thing is people do find me.
Yeah.
That's the point. You know what I mean? Like Elvis Presley Enterprises. I mean, they contacted me through my social media. Do you know what I mean? And so people do find me because it's Elvis. Do you know what I mean? It's Elvis, and people kind of find it. But yeah, I do use social media, but I'm not. It's not my main sort of focus.
What would you say have been some of the most inspiring or heartwarming messages you've received from fans and people who've
Oh
just kind of
wow.
enjoyed your act?
Oh well, yeah. First of all, after I did Chichester Pride last year, someone young, a Gen Z, sent me a message and said, I've just seen you at Chichester Pride. You were so slay up on that stage. And I had to Google urban slang to figure out what slay meant. And I thought,
Yeah.
get in. I am slay. I've had, I've had, like I say, Elvis means something to people on many different levels. And I had a guy come up to me once at the end of a gig, a grown man in his 50s with tears. And he said to me, he said, when you sang The Wonder of You, we had that at my mother's funeral.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I thought, wow, I've actually got a responsibility with these songs. I've had, uh, I get, especially after I've performed, I've had people come up to me afterwards, like with a parent that's got dementia and have said to me, mum or dad, they really enjoyed your act. It really brought things up. And I was doing a Pride, and it was quite a few thousand people at the front of the stage. And but my talent, if I've got a talent at all, is that I'm good at connecting with people. And if I've got a second talent, what I'm good at is hooking in, finding your silliness and bringing it out. And people when I come on stage, it's like they kind of buy into the stupidity of it. They start screaming and holding their hands up. I mean, I was doing a gig and everybody's holding their hands out, and I'm all kind of going, thank you, like that. And someone actually licked my hand because people buy into the silliness of it, because it is absurd. It's an absolutely absurd idea and act. And there's a genuineness in me that wants to connect with people that comes through. I mean, someone messaged me recently and said, I love your act. She said, it's silly, it's funny, it's kitchen camp. She said, but it's also
Kitchen camp. That's a new one.
Kitsch and
Kitsch.
camp. Kitsch. Yeah. Do you not know what kitsch means?
No, I have no idea.
Kitch. So kitsch is like, it's like cheesy, and
Oh,
a bit of
okay.
cheesy and camp. It's sort of, but she said, but it's also really moving and touching, and that's the element of James that comes through in it. My need to connect, with people, and like those are it's lovely when people, when you know you've had that. I mean, I did a thing for Kent Adoption and Fostering Agency, and there was
Wow.
about 1,000 people there, and all the kids there were all adopted or fostered. And I'm thinking, and they're all like under 10, 12 years of age. I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? Not one of them's going to know who Elvis is. But by the time I'd finished, they knew who Elberace was, and they were up on the stage having so much fun. These kids that have been started their life in such a difficult way, and we're just having fun on this stage. That's what I when I'm performing and I can see. I don't know if you've seen a video and it's on YouTube, and if you've not seen it, please do go and watch it. It's on YouTube and it's the full version of me doing The Wonder of You at Southampton Pride. Now I went onto that stage unknown. I was bricking it. It was the first time I've been in front of an audience that big, and they had some really good acts on, and my ADHD was totally clicked in with it. And the footage is what was shown on the screens. I managed to get the footage, and I'm total in ADHD engagement while I'm doing it. So it's totally unrehearsed. And as I come across the stage, I start saying, and I don't remember doing this, I'm saying, right, in the instrumental, let me see some colour, get those flags in the air, you know, this is your pride, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the camera goes behind me and he's filming from behind. And there's this massive audience with flags all waving their arms like this. And I watched that because it's not me that I see, and I have no recollection of it at all. And I watch that and I think, wow, that is incredibly powerful. That's pride. And that's a message out to the world. It's unity. And it's nothing to do with me. I'm conducting that at that time. But it's there's a bit of Elvis in there, there's the song, and then there's the event and the meaning of the event. And it really is, for me, I've got lots of footage of me performing. For me, it's the one that I watch it over and over again because it's not me. Because I have no recollection when I've been on stage when I come off, because I'm in total ADHD hyper when I'm on. Like I say, I don't rehearse. I just go on and do it, and I'm absolutely trying to make sure I'm touching everybody in that audience. And when I watch it back, and then I think, my God, that's me, and it fills me with joy and emotion, because I think, wow, look, that's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. I can't believe that I've done that. It's incredibly powerful.
Thank,
And it's not to be taken for granted. It's not to, every audience is unique. Every audience is a collective. And any, I mean, I'm Buddhist, and I you know, I focus on karmic energy and stuff like that. Every audience is unique. Everybody's there with their own opinion of you and why they're there and what they're seeing and what they brought with them that day and what their life is. To get them to put their hands in the air and wave and sing back to you, the wonder of you, that is a huge, huge privilege. Go and have a look at it.
I will. I will. Thank you so much. Okay, I got an interesting one for you. I've asked this question in more recent times, variations of it, but what has Elvis taught you about life?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. That's a very, very, very good question.
Even
I
more so
think actually,
because you said about how you had to research, like you weren't originally a
yeah,
fan, you researched this person, you
yeah,
created your own character.
yeah. There's a thing with Elvis that is why he is such a phenomenon, because Elvis came around in the 1950s. He lived in Memphis, and he lived at a time when there was segregation. And I don't know if you know this, he was a twin, and his twin died. His twin was stillborn. His mum
Oh,
didn't know, Gladys Presley didn't know she was expecting a twin. And about half an hour later, she had Elvis. His twin was called Jesse Garon, and he was called Elvis Aaron. And he always carried that through his life. He always felt questioned whether he was responsible for the other twins' death. And he was bullied as a kid at school, but really bullied. And he loved the gospel music. And he used to go into the gospel churches, step over the segregation. He used to go into the clubs that he wasn't supposed to go into. And his whole dress sense was inspired by the musicians that he saw. And I mean, Hound Dog is originally, I don't know the terms now. I mean, I'm getting so tired of it. Is it okay to say black? Is that the term we use now? So
yes,
it was a black woman that sung the song. I don't know
mhm.
if that's. I apologise if I've offended anybody. I get lost with the new terms, but and his music was inspired by this by these artists, and that was a really tricky thing to do. A really tricky thing to do, and in the 1970s, that's why he's a phenomenon. That's why he's a phenomenon. And and as you know, I'm sure you know, he was banned off TV. He was considered, you know, whatever. In the 1970s, he won an award, and at the award, he performed a song, and he used to do it live sometimes, called "Walk a Mile in My Shoes." And I performed that in my shows, "Walk a Mile in My Shoes," and it's a brilliant lyric song. It really, and of course, I do it from an LGBTQ AI plus perspective. He did it from a different perspective. He was incredibly spiritual. I'm a Nichiren Buddhist. I chant twice a day, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I'm a member of an organisation called the Soka Gakkai International. I practiced for 15 years, and he was incredibly spiritual. He was abused by his management. Um, and when you look at his status of who he was, I mean, he never toured out of America because his management wouldn't let him, because his manager was an illegal immigrant in America, couldn't go with him and controlled him. And that's all contributed to his demise. He had, in my opinion, his biggest talent was his heart and his genuine care of people. There are countless stories of his generosity, countless where he didn't make a big show of it. And I find that very inspiring. I find that very, very, very inspiring to see an artist at that time, no internet, huge global artist with that kind of care. When he would be at Graceland, he'd put his pajamas on and go up to the bedroom and just, you know, he had to and let everybody else carry on. He had an extraordinary life, and it's a real shame now that we're left with that sort of, you know, he was incredibly ill at the end. Obviously, he died at 42. But I think, from studying him, was a very special man with a special energy and a special spirituality. That, hey, I went a few years ago to the O2 Arena when I was researching my act to go to watch the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra play with him on screen singing along to it. Sold out, sold out. A world tour, sold out. 45, 47 years after his death, longer than he's been alive. That is phenomenal that someone can do that. So it he is an artist that definitely deserves investigation and respect. And I try to do my act in a respectful way, but in my own kind of way.
Thank you so much for sharing that, man. Really, really appreciate it. Couple of final questions for you, completely unrelated to what we've been talking about today. But I ask every guest these questions.
Mm.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh,
I love that response.
yeah. Funny enough, it was from myself on another podcast a couple of weeks ago.
It's a new one. It's a first.
Do you mind? Well, it was quite
Yeah, go for it.
interesting. It was quite interesting because I've touched upon abuses I had as a kid, and I think it's very safe to say, in numerous ways, I've had quite an abusive life, and went into my adulthood. I certainly had undiagnosed eating disorders, drug addiction, all those usual things that people do through self-hatred. I'm what you call a late bloomer. Everything in life happens late for me, and I have to get down and dirty to get anywhere. I'm not somebody that things just come to. I have to work, and I'm glad to do that. I'm glad to do that. That's what leads me to get in front of my Gohonzon, my Buddhist mandala, and chant every day to transform that in my life and to transform karma. And when I did this other podcast, it was Mental Health Awareness Week. And they asked me what advice I would give to myself now. And I said to them, I said that I would answer the question as an adult now, but to myself as a child experiencing what I went through as a kid, and that subsequently went into my adulthood, my adult life, and has really blighted things about my life. Every decision I make. I mean, I don't walk in a pub, and I don't know I'm doing it, but I scan the room to check I'm safe. I don't talk on my mobile phone in public because I don't want my voice to be heard. Things have changed, but I've still got those things. And I said to him, I actually got emotional when I said it, but I'm not going to now. If I was giving myself advice to that young person, it would be three very simple words. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. As you are not a literal thinker. The world is governed by literal thinkers. They percolate to the top because they play by the rules, and they kill creativity. Even when you go into an industry like this, as you work your way up, you end up with management, producers, the business people. The thing that you originally started doing starts to change a bit to become a product. And I've learned, especially in more recent years, to notice red flags and to stick to my intuition. Stick to my intuition, because I'm the only person that lives this life. And, when the curtain comes down on my little life, it's not the iPhone, it's not the fantastic holiday or the lovely home that you've had that you're proud of. It's the struggle and the things that you overcome to get to that place of the final part of your life. And you think, wow, I did all that. It's the rough seas that are more exciting than the calm seas.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's interesting. Like, well, there's a few things I could relate to there. I mean, when you say like, oh, I have to get down and dirty and really like work hard for things, I totally relate to that.
Mm,
God, every day feels like a fight for me to just try to get to claw anything, like
mm.
literally anything, any opportunity,
Mm. Yeah,
and they're few and far between, to be honest. So I can totally relate to that. But also just yeah, in general, the trying to stay strong for it all and keep going and keep
yeah.
persevering and remembering like why you started doing something in the first place. You know, like
Mm.
what's the thing that actually drives you?
It's.
And
I mean, I'm not gonna get all the Buddhist on you, but
sure.
with my practice, uh, so Buddhism's been bastardized in the West into big fat things. It's saying like there's lots of different types of Buddhism. I practice Nichiren Buddhism, which is based on chanting the phrase Namyo Renge-kyo, Namyo Renge-kyo, Namyo Renge-kyo, Namyo Renge-kyo, and we chant. And what the practice teaches us is that life comes with mission and life comes with karma, and we're each a note in a concerto of music. Bing, that's my note. And my thing is to try to get that in tune. And is to focus on that on a daily thing. So Buddhism's an atheist religion. There's no gods or anything. I mean, I say it's a philosophy that you do religiously. And for me, it helps me to touch the post. You know, do you remember that game, It, when you were a kid, and you'd have to stand still and you'd have to get to the post? You'd be saying, the post is when I'm chanting. It helps me to see that from a higher perspective. And so what we're taught is that struggle is the beauty of your life. It's there to be transformed. The reason you have the struggle is there's something much deeper in it, within it, for you to transform. And so I try to, I mean, just recently I felt really stuck. Um, and I chanted about it and I realized, like I suddenly thought, my God, I'm 57. How did I get to 57? If I fancy a guy now, I'm thinking, oh, he must be about 45. And I think, shit, I'm 12 years older. And I chanted a lot about it because I was really struggling with my age. And I realized, God, we've been through a pandemic. All of us lost time. And life is moving on constantly. So when we went into the pandemic, 2 days before, my knee swelled up. I stopped psychologically where I was when we went into the lockdowns, but my body continued. And since we come out of the lockdown, the momentums have changed. The momentum I had then is different to the momentum I've got now. And we move away. See, human beings, we can see we can see the sun. We can't see our eyelashes. We can't see what's really close up. So we're moving very slowly out of the pandemic, but we're not realizing what we've lost in our lives with it. We all remember the Titanic, but we don't remember the global thing that we've all just been through. Life's about achievement. It's about achievement. And when after I'd done my chanting about it, I realized when I look at my 50s, I don't really I've got a void of achievement. You know what I mean? At that specific time in my life. And it's given me the bollocks to not think, oh God, I'm 57, but think, hold on, I'm 57. Yeah, I've lost that time and you can't get that back. But I'm as sure as hell going to fucking do my best to not be an old, cruddy 57-year-old sat in a stinky whiff of piss. What I'm going to do, sorry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep proving that there is stuff to achieve. I might have to do it on creaky knees, but that's what I'm going to do. And it changed my perspective. from age to courage and determination. And so I'd say to you, yeah, I agree. It's horrible when you have to get down and get dirty. I mean, I have to do that all the time, and it's gutting. And you're thinking, why me? Why me? But it's actually the reason why you have that is because there's a greatness in you, and life is inherently negative. It's yours to break through, because at the other side of it, with each breakthrough, there's something great. Don't become that negativity. Push through it, because there's greatness in you. There's greatness in all life, but there's greatness in you. It's there to be achieved. Don't let the negativity of life, which is inherent in life. Change comes with resistance. And when you really want something and you're not getting it, there's something about you within that is fundamental to your happiness.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, it's blowing me away. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Well, again, it's to learn to listen to myself. Our lives are unique. Our lives, I mean, what a miracle. You think of all the people in the world that your mum and dad would meet, and that's not just them, that goes right back to the beginning of all the people that met and copulated to get to you. No, but it's true. That's what it is. That's what it is. And
I can't believe my parents got together at all.
well,
I look at them and I'm like, they didn't end up together in the end, and
no,
I'm
no, I'm
glad they
sorry to
didn't.
hear that.
I'm glad they didn't. They
I'm
found
sorry
their people, so
yeah,
it was good. But yeah, I'm like, I can't
I,
believe I exist.
I'm sorry to hear that, but you do exist. You do exist.
Yeah,
The miracle of, without being graphic, but that particular sperm hitting that egg at that time created you. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that
yeah, I appreciate what you
it,
said. Yeah,
isn't that incredible? It really is incredible that you've got life. And life is, in my opinion, life is the universe's way of seeing and experiencing itself, consciousness. And so my biggest life lesson is coming all the time to me. It comes to me all the time. I have moments when I think, wow, but it's to listen to myself, to realize the uniqueness of my own life, and my mission to carry on and to be as authentic as I can be and keep creating, keep putting it out, because nothing lives in isolation. Everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And so nothing lives in isolation. You are a very, as I am, this is what I realize, I'm a very important note in that concerto that needs to be played. And so to really just, that's the biggest life lesson for me, is to really, 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 I mean, I get depression. There's no two ways about it. And with that, I can get really bad suicide ideation, passive suicide ideation. And for me, when I'm being creative, I don't have that. And your emotions are your guide to whether you're on target or not, whether you're doing the right thing. And so for me, it's about listening to myself, being true to myself, and not listening to other people, but not letting that take me off course. You've got to have a good target. You've got to have your goal. You've got to be able to see the bullseye all the time. Otherwise, you're just firing the arrow anywhere. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, so on the whole planet, if you've got one bullseye, if you're on the moon, you'll probably miss it. But if you're stood 10 feet away from it, you'll hit it. And you've got to keep yourself 10 feet away from your goal the whole time. The goal will keep changing, because as your life grows, that goal will expand. But that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned as I go through life, and set my boundaries with people. You don't have to like everybody. Stop letting people take advantage of you. Everyone will want to do that.
Final
I bet
question
you
for
weren't
you.
expecting that from Gay
No, no,
Elvis, were you?
I love it. I love it. I mean, that's what this show is all
Well,
about.
get me on, and
It's
I'll do a Buddhist chat with you.
sure, I'd love to. Yeah, final question for you. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
As in with my Gay Elvis, with
Anything at
Elberace.
all? Yeah, anything at
Well,
all,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, I'm so I've got my new single coming out, which I just
Woo.
released myself independently. Blue Suede Shoes. Go and have a listen. I'm streamable on all platforms. Elberace, not Gay Elvis, Elberace. I've had so last year I came off stage. I performed in Brighton and then went up to Southampton in the evening, and that's on YouTube. I've got an orange jumpsuit on with fringing. You watch it, you will not believe that when I came off stage, I couldn't walk. And I've spent the last 6 months dealing with the fact that I have arthritis,
Right.
and I'm having to learn to deal with the fact that I have a degenerate disease. And how do I continue going? I've been on crutches until a month ago, since September. So I'm not going to let that stop me. Oh, fuck am I? Yeah, okay. This year I'm not performing at. I had 9 festivals booked through the summer. I've had to cancel a lot of them. That's gutting for me. That's gutting for me. I'm doing 4 of them. I'm doing 4. I'm going to go on those stages and leave my guts out there and enjoy it. And then the rest of this year is about trying to strengthen my legs. Um, yeah, and I mean, they're my projects at the moment. I'm just focused on doing those, and then keep creating, keep focusing on my act. I like I say, I had major management interest when we went into the lockdowns. All that got lost through the lockdowns, which was gutting for me. See if I can pick that up. See if I can get. I do have a manager, but see if I can get myself up a bit. But just keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on living. Keep experiencing. Keep feeling, and demanding out of myself what I deserve, that I have the block to, and keep pushing it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get what I want. I don't want to be famous. I really don't. Me personally, I don't want to be seen. But I think El Barachi deserves his 15 minutes of fame, so he can just get a little bit more money and a bit of comfort when he's doing what he's doing. I believe that's possible. I believe that's possible for my act. Um, yeah, I'll keep on going. And if I get to the stage when I can't walk, I might do it in an electric wheelchair, or I might create something else. Do you know what I mean? I might create another act. I mean, performed as a cabaret artist in other ways. It's just I did this as a mistake, as an accident, and suddenly that's what I've been doing because people are coming to me for work. I mean, I turned a lot of stuff down this year because of my knees. But yeah, that's my goal. My goal. Keep going. Keep going. My mother is 86. She nearly died in March. She had a massive heart attack in the middle of the night. And people keep saying to me, so with 3 months, they've said 9 months full recovery. People keep saying to me, how's your mum? I keep saying to her, my mum is a Mancunian, 4'6" stick of don't fuck with me. She's within 2 months, she's back doing her voluntary work. She's not going to let a heart attack stop her. She can't breathe because of all the drugs she's on. She's not going to let that. I find that really inspiring. I find that really inspiring. The problem in the West, we're so ageist. You see an old person walking along with one of those three-wheeler things, and in the West, we just say, "Oh, look at that old biddy. Look at the struggle they're going through to get to the shops." That deserves admiration. So yeah.
Massive thank you for everything, for sharing your story, your wisdom, your experiences.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's an inspiring one, man. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. It's been nice to talk to you. It's been nice to talk to you. And yeah, I hope people enjoy it.
They absolutely
Go and
will.
follow me on my social media on Instagram because I'm shit at building.
I'll make sure to include the links in the bio for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
And go and
you.
look at The Wonder of You on YouTube, please. You. I want
There
you
we
to see
go.
it. I want you to see it. In fact, I'm going to send you a link afterwards.
I'll make sure to watch it and make sure everybody watches it. Not
Thank you.
all the videos, this show. Yeah, massive thank you. Thank you to the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast. I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify. Leave us a rating, a review. Same on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen to the podcast, make sure you show us some love. It really, really helps us with growing the show, reaching new people. Share it with your friends, share it with anyone else you know that likes podcasts or likes good, inspiring conversations like this one. And if you want to support me and everything that I do, make sure to go to www. Well, you can go to my website, christianreeve.com. You can also go to patreon.com/christianreeve. There's also a link tree. All the links I've included in the description. So there's different ways to support me and check out what I'm doing outside of the podcasting world. And of course, I will include links so you know where to find Elberace and support him as well. Thank you so much. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.